And about 5 or 6 years ago, he became the person within our organization who started talking 40 Days for Life. And he is 40 Days for Life in greatness. Come on down, Tom, wherever you are. This is Tom Kurtz. He's been out there twice a year for the 40 days, 80 days total. And first year was very slim, didn't have too many there. He got more and more help as time went on. And this year we had people there for almost the whole time. So this guy. He's our champion for life this year. For his dedicated service to the unborn, their families, and the Lord, our giver of life, for 40 Days for Life. And 40 days is going on in Brighton, Michigan because of this man.
This was quite a surprise. I've got some special friends that came all the way from Waterford that I want to stand up and recognize. Surprise, could you please stand up? And she's the product of a rape. And she has her mother, her adopted mother, with her, Bonnie. Could you stand up, Bonnie? I could probably call out about 10 or 15 other people here that I know that have made my life so exciting. And like Joan said, it was very slow at the beginning, but we have picked up momentum. Our goal this last year, this last winter, was to have one church take one day. That's 40 churches. If you believe that there's 160 churches in the county, and we've got about 8, 10, 12. We've got about 12 churches that are really dedicated and have a lot of people. And my heart goes out to all the pastors because it's not an easy job to talk about abortion. And that's why the Protestants don't seem to have it, but the Catholics really have it. And I put in a plug for the books and God bless everybody this year.
Rachel, put that slide of Tom Kurtz back up on there. Can you do that? Tom, that's Tom's house that they're standing in front of. Well, I want to introduce you to Lindsay. Lindsay, come on up here, honey. Lindsay is from Riverview Church in Holt, where she is a member of the welcome team there. She is the vice president at LAFQ Credit Union. You said LAFQ? Come on. And she's here with her mom, Terry. And she is a presider in a group called Birth Moms, and she's been there for 3 years, and she wants to tell you her story.
When Sherry approached me about sharing my story tonight, and then she mentioned that Ryan was the keynote speaker, I had to Google who he was. And when I Googled him, I was like, oh my gosh, it was just very overwhelming and very powerful, and I'm incredibly honored and humbled to be speaking alongside you tonight. My story begins in upstate New York. I had moved there a few months prior to live with my fiance on his dairy farm. And so when I found out I was pregnant, I was honestly shocked. I thought, how did this happen? But of course, we know how it happened. And I think a lot of women go through this. I took like 5 pregnancy tests. I even went to the doctor to confirm, and yes, I was indeed pregnant. So I went from a very short amount of time from planning a wedding to planning a baby coming. But on my fiance's end, that initial surprise and excitement of a baby coming along turned into our relationship is falling apart, and you need to have an abortion. I remember very much feeling like that was my only option. My fiance and his mother tried very hard to force me to have an abortion. They told me things like, by having an abortion, it was putting the baby's life in God's hands, that I wouldn't be able to physically handle the pregnancy, and they even offered me money. And I think when all of this was going on, part of me very much wanted no one to know what was going on. But there was very much a part of me who wanted someone just to bring me back and talk me down from the ledge. So my first reaction was I called Planned Parenthood because in my mind I thought, okay, this is an agency who's going to help me. But when I called, there was no conversation about coming in to speak with somebody. The woman on the phone simply gave me the phone number to the nearest abortion clinic. So I called and I made an appointment to have an abortion. But then I also called my mom back home in Michigan. And when I called her, she very much assured me that abortion was not my only option. Both of my parents had abortions in their past. And it was so important to her for me to know that I had choices. So when I hung up the phone with her that first conversation, I called the abortion clinic and I canceled my appointment. But during the whole course of that week, my fiance and his mother continued to pressure me to have an abortion. So another phone call was made to the clinic and I made another appointment. And another phone call was made to my mom back home. And I think of my mom as my angel on earth because she, again, very calmly talked me down off of that ledge and said, Lindsay, abortion is not your only option. And during that time too, thankfully I had a job because that was the one place I felt safe. And I remember being at lunch one day in my car, I had a Christian radio station on, and they were speaking about the sanctity of life of an unborn child in the womb. And they used Dr. Seuss's 14 Years of Who as a reference. A person is a person, no matter how small. And there was another night where I could not sleep because I knew that somewhere in the Bible it talked about me being knit together in my mother's womb. And I didn't know where that was, and I couldn't sleep until I found it. And I finally found it. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt where it is now. It's Psalm 139, verses 14 through 16. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. During that second phone call to my mom, she very much encouraged me to keep my ultrasound appointment the next day. And I will never forget how I felt when the ultrasound technician took the device and moved it in the appropriate spot. And I think it was almost like she had excitement, she was like, and here's baby. When I saw my daughter for the first time, I was only 12 weeks pregnant, and I could see her arms and her legs and her feet and her tiny hands. And I could even tell that she had my little turned up nose. Watching her on the monitor, she was literally having a dance party inside of me, and I could not even feel that yet. And it was that moment that I knew that I could never abort this child. Because I refused to have an abortion, 2 days later when I got home from work, all of my belongings had been packed up and placed on a moving van. And I was taken to the bus station and put on a bus back to Michigan. On September 20th, 2012, the most incredibly beautiful child of God was born. And I experienced so much love in my decision, and not just in my decision to choose life, but also in my decision in choosing an adoption plan. I think many people, especially those who have children already, they really wonder at my ability to make that decision and that choice. And I have a word that has been resounding through my journey, and my mom knows very well, because we've been through this together, and that word is love. And the best way I can describe it to you is that the love that I feel in choosing an adoption plan is just a tiny glimpse of how big God's love is for us. I firmly believe that God is the author of all of our stories, and that our God is so good, and that we are here for His purpose, fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you.
Ryan Bomberger should not be here tonight. The whole Democratic Party, the Supreme Court, a sizable number of Republicans thinks it would be okay if Ryan Bomberger were not here. And that is because Ryan Bomberger was conceived and raped. And many people, almost everybody thinks that abortion is okay in the case of rape. Almost everybody. We don't. Ryan is a stunning voice for life. He and his wife Bethany run the Radiance Foundation, which raises awareness about adoption instead of abortion, and about how racial groups are being targeted by the abortion industry. One of the many things his organization has done is put together, you gotta go to his website, he put together an arresting billboard campaign in Atlanta that highlighted the fact that blacks are victimized by abortion in wild proportion to what whites are. In the meantime, he's testified before Congress, has won an Emmy, has been the subject of many articles in the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Times. He's been on CNN and on MSNBC. He's been on Oprah. Well, yes, and he's being sued by the NAACP. You see, us don't know what to do with this guy. But we know what to do. We need to Kevin, come on up here.
That was a great intro, thank you. I will pay you later. It is a joy to be here. Lindsay, giving your testimony is a powerful thing. I said to you earlier, it's amazing when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, what God can do through you. It's amazing how the word of our testimony can reach people. It's an awesome thing. I love words. God didn't just wave a wand, didn't just snap his finger. He spoke the world into existence. He said, let there be light. Words are revolutionary, and that's why the Radiance Foundation, we can put the presentation on, that'd be great. My wife and I started this a few years ago, back in 2009, when, remember when the economy was booming back then? You don't remember? Neither do I. We're crazy. Actually, if you're pro-life, and you would probably agree to this, if you're pro-life, you have to be a little bit crazy, right? There you go. And I'm really grateful for Pregnancy Helpline and for you trusting me enough with this microphone to share what I'm about to share. But you know, when you do this thing, when you defend human dignity, you have to put yourself in a different kind of category. Because to bring about the transformation, you have to do the unconventional all the time. And so my wife and I wanted to start something back in 2009. She was a teacher for years, for about 10 years. In fact, her last 3 years of teaching were in inner city Philly. This is about ready to disconnect, so I have to do this. But she was a teacher in inner city Philly, and I, by profession, am a creative agitator, otherwise known as a creative director. Worked in the ad agency world for years and years, and so we wanted to create something to illuminate the truth about a myriad of social issues. So we started the Radiance Foundation, and our slogan is illuminate, educate, motivate. We want to illuminate one simple truth, that every human life has intrinsic value. It's not given to us by man or woman. Thank goodness by my governmental institution, because we know how well that goes when the government decides who's human and who isn't. We want to educate people about a myriad of social issues in the context of God, give a purpose, and motivate them to make a change within their own heart, to make a change in their family, in their communities, schools, and sometimes even the world. And in 2015, how is this even radical? But it is. It's radical to say that every human life has purpose. It's not just our Twitter handle, but it's our entire handle on life. Everything that we create. In fact, I love this. I love how God has a way of allowing triumph to rise from tragedy all the time. And here is somebody who should have been aborted, according to the world's mentality, is now creating content to prove this warped ideology wrong. In fact, everything you're about ready to see, I'm a designer, I created it. And I always say that, not out of immodesty, but to say, God could use every single one of us. He's given us certain passions, certain abilities, and I love being able to communicate that truth. So this organization takes us around the world. We do these multimedia presentations, tackling, the easy topics like abortion and race, liberal feminism, you are what you bleed, pop culture, the power of purity. Now, we live in a culture today where, does Hollywood celebrate purity, anybody? It doesn't. There is power in purity. Young people, they're so immersed in a culture that has such disdain for purity. When we talk about that, the History Project, we talk about the true civil rights timeline of America, because, surprise, mainstream media isn't telling you the truth. Did anybody notice that? Yeah, public education, not much better either. Self-control versus remote control, because we believe in character. Anybody in here still believe that character matters? Okay, half of you. Half of you. Down the hall to the left, there's a session on character. It matters. And we love to create content, video content, social media memes, the billboards that you mentioned. We've placed over 500 billboards across the country. And some of these you can get on our website, radiancefoundation.org/memes. There are also some great fact sheets. Of course, all this stuff is out there for free. Just grab stuff, educate a friend, educate some family members. Fact sheets, radiancefoundation.org. just the facts. And when I talk about abortion, which is a fundamental issue that we address civil rights, we address fatherlessness, we address family stability, natural marriage, a lot of different issues, poverty. When we address abortion, we have to let you know that we are relentless about exposing an industry, but we are completely compassionate for the individual. Heaven knows. Now, I don't know about you, but there's probably not a whole lot of people in here who have not made a mistake. Maybe by a show of hands. Who has never made a mistake in here? There's some flames burning. Other than that gentleman, all of us have made mistakes. Obviously, we have different consequences, but we have a God who can restore, a God who brings us wholeness and healing. In fact, these are some great resources, national resources. If you know of somebody who is going through that, or if you yourself are going through that, and the Pregnancy Helpline also provides after abortion care as well. And so we just want you to know that you are not alone.
Life is never picture perfect. Human beings come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and abilities. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we think we're prepared, the unplanned happens all the time. It's how we respond to the unexpected that shows our true humanity. But many do not see the value of every human life. Too many are willing to discard those who don't fit the picture of perfection. Abortion destroys the chance to love and to be loved. We never know what will fill the frames of our lives, or how empty those frames can be when we allow exceptions. Every life is a gift.
That voice belongs to the favorite woman in my life. It's my wife, Bethany. She was a single mom for a year, so that's why she knows what young women who face unplanned pregnancy go through, the fear and the confusion. She knows. She also knows that the only outcome to something that is unplanned is definitely not misery. In fact, the outcome to her unplanned pregnancy was a little girl named Haley Radiance, who was my daughter. I became her daddy when she was 1, and I became officially her dad when she was 5. I adopted her and my youngest son, 4 children. Adopted Haley and Justice on the same day in a Georgia courthouse, a half hour apart. One of the best days of my life. Just to show you, God can transform and make beauty rise out of ashes all the time. In fact, the ashes are often our misperception of the situation in the first place. And oftentimes, we have the uncanny ability to create those ashes to begin with. But God is a God of redemption, a God of restoration. I love talking about adoption. In fact, especially to Christians, because, how should I say this? Too often Christians have this mindset that adoption, many of them, it's like it's something new, like they've never heard before. Adoption, you hear that? That's a really neat thing. What is that again? There is no salvation without adoption. It is the essence of salvation. So it shouldn't just be second nature, it should actually be first nature for Christians. James 1:27, we've heard this many, many times. Pure religion is this, what? Taking care of somebody? Widows and orphans. And when that was written, it was written at a time, during a militaristic time. Lots of wars that left behind many widows and orphans. Now in our country, within our borders, we do not have militaristic war, but we have a cultural war that has left behind more dead, more casualties than all wars the U.S. has fought combined. 57 million and counting. Leaving behind, effectively, widows abandoned by men. We have a massive epidemic of abandonment by men. And also leaving behind orphans in the womb. And so, I'm glad that my story didn't end like 57 million others. This is the Bomberger family, small little family. Your typical American family. Henry and Andrew Bomberger didn't know what they were getting into. I was the first one adopted. Obviously it went well. They kept going. 9 more adoptions later. Can you tell which ones are adopted? I know there are a lot of afros, so it can throw people off, but they had 3 homemade, and they're the off-white ones. And I do have one off-white sister too. She's kind of like northwest of the F there, Beth. But all the rest of us, Native American, Vietnamese, black, white, black and white, adopted out of, we have newborn adoptions, teen adoptions, domestic, international, foster care, special needs. Some of my siblings have special needs. Of course, we all have a special need, and that is to be loved. And let me tell you, we were loved like crazy. Loved like crazy by our parents. Transracial adoption. Now, the National Association of Black Social Workers back in, I think it was 72, made a decree that no black child should ever be placed in a white home for any reason. Which explains, in large part, why black children tend to languish longer in foster care. Because they still do that. They reaffirmed that back in 1993. Look, I personally think, especially for those who talk about racial justice, one of the most beautiful acts of racial reconciliation is bringing a child of a different race into your home and loving him or her simply because they deserve to be loved. So, I'm an advocate of transracial adoption. I love it. I'm an advocate of same-race adoption. I'm just an advocate of adoption. I love it and the purpose that gets unleashed through adoption. Now our family, every family has a story. They're all different. Ours has a story that actually started with my mom, who was temporarily abandoned when she was 5 years old in a children's home. Her parents were divorced and her father was an alcoholic, extremely abusive. So here she goes into a children's home for 1 year. And I love this. It doesn't matter whether you're 5 or 95, God can use you. And it's amazing what he does and what he did with this 5-year-old.